The crucial thing is perceiving a documentary as not separate from the project, but as actually integral into the way in which the project is understood in the future.
It'll be a great opportunity to show students back at IUP on a much larger scale where I work and what I do.
And like I said, this often involves a lot of hard work, hard physical work and hard sort of intellectual energy.
So to see all these elements come together in the form of a documentary, I think should be fun.
And necro is just the word for dead, and polis is city.
In the fall of 2004, Dr. William Carehair, a professor at the University of North Dakota, asked one of his graduate students if he'd be interested in using his background in film and history to produce a documentary on an archaeological expedition to Cyprus. The student agreed and produced the following presentation.
Station. Exit left. Please take your belongings with you.
Nearly 1,000 years ago, Cyprus was part of a thriving trade network and subject to multiple conquests. Even today, Cyprus is divided. A UN peacekeeping force separates a Turkish regime in the north from a Greek republic in the south, and 3 British military bases dot the island. The British Dikelia base is particularly important because it contains remnants of an ancient settlement dating back to the late Roman period. Through the cooperation of the Department of Antiquities, the British Ministry of Defense, and the Larnaka District Archaeological Museum, PKAP has gained permission to survey for artifacts on Dikelia's military firing range, which may provide clues about life in ancient Cyprus.
This is an island that is divided between Turkish and Cypriot rule. There's this tension. We're at an interesting sort of crossroads in the Mediterranean between sort of East and West, if you will, or Middle East and Europe. Throughout history on this island, a lot of the sort of pressing questions that are affecting the contemporary world have played themselves out here, and they continue to play themselves out here.
And as you will soon discover, everything here is incredibly expensive this year. And this is the best kebab house on the entire island, which we have not gone to as often as we should.
Well, we will have kebabs tonight in honor of it.
Right. Home-cooked kebabs.
They don't look very good.
The team originally was composed of Dr. William Carehair, David Pettigrew, and myself. I was looking for an area to survey, and so I needed some help, and they are very good at what they do, so I approached them, and we've sort of been expanding outward each year since then, bringing in specialists and other people that we enjoy working with.
This is the sacred bathtub.
This would be a smart house. It's just incredible. I was going to say a burial, Christian burial. It's a fun place. It's very laid back. I sort of fell in love with the island. It gets a little hot on occasion. The sun's pretty bright, but other than that, it's a really enjoyable place to work. It's where Greek culture and Near Eastern culture really intersected between the Byzantines, the Arabs, the Egyptians, the Persians. You name them, they came here. And the Department of Antiquities here is very interested in finding people to help them survey different areas. And so it was very fortuitous for me.
That's the height of Vigla. That's the height of Kokino-Kremos over there. See the really prominent ridge? Mm-hmm. Our site falls sort of between those two. On Kokino-Kremos, there's late Bronze Age, a big impressive, late Bronze Age fortified site that people are a little bit confused about. And on top of Vigla is there's quite a bit of classical. This is covering buildings, basically. And it's almost all late Roman. me 80% late Roman. It's late Roman. But it's interesting because look at this mortar.
Yeah.
And this is not the same as the mortar that John Leonard was saying is like the Koutsopetria really fine grain stuff.
PKAP is a survey of the southern coast of Cyprus in the area of Pyla-Koutsopetria to examine the ramifications that trade, both long distance and local trade, would have had on the vicinity in the periods from really my main interest was the Greek period through the Byzantine period. But we are sort of trying to cover all periods now.
Kind of a characteristic late Roman tile, which is found in large quantities at other late Roman sites on the island, like Koutsopetria and Moroni, Petrera.
Even this little stretch of
has
rock
these things, and we find these all over the place here. Right now we're surveying a significant coastal late Roman site, and in traditional historiography, the late Roman period was a period of stagnation and decline. You know, the great decline of culture, life, politics, religion during the 3rd to 7th centuries AD, and so that the world became something barbaric and medieval. And I think here we have a site which dates to these centuries, which is not barbaric, it's not insignificant, and it's obviously a very wealthy site with significant monumental architectural remains.
This is gypsum. Ah, this is gypsum. This is. There's no marble on the island, and so they use this like indigenous Cypriot marble. It's called gypsum, and I don't know if you've seen this. If you see this in Megiddo or whatever, but you know it's like a laminate.
Last year we managed to survey nearly 200 grid squares in the course of 2 weeks, and we have an almost complete data set from which we can begin to analyze the data and to report on human activity and the nature of settlement and habitation and land use at this important late Roman site.
PKAP's research method is to study the range for artifacts remaining on the surface. To do this, they plot an invisible grid across the landscape. Then they search each square unit for finds.
See? Ancient revetment.
Ooh. Units are measured outward from a single spot or datum point, marked by a metal pipe and located by a global positioning system, in full view of the entire grid matrix.
Why don't we just, the easiest thing is just look in here. There should just be a pipe.
What are the odds of losing it?
Oh, easy. All right. We found it.
Oh my gosh.
Datum. Good.
The more important purpose of going into the field yesterday morning was to clarify and correct a gridding problem which we didn't quite work out before the end of the 2004 season. The grid appears to be incorrect, and we simply misrecorded. The more points of reference that you use when establishing a grid, the greater potential for introducing error.
And the easiest way to fix this is by going in GPS points on it and just shifting it.
In effect, we were able to slide about 17 units, which had been shot off the bad datum point. We were able to slide that to the northeast and fix the problem. This is a relatively minor problem, but it's important to correct all your mistakes.
It's a good time to make corrections before moving on. At this point, the team is still assembling on Cyprus, with some members, like Dr. Scott Moore and his students, still en route and scheduled to land shortly.
Well, that's good news. Mike just talked to Dr. Fisher, Mr. Fisher.
Okay.
And the Larnaka and Paphos airports are closed indefinitely because of some big strike.
Oh my
The
gosh.
baggage handlers and other people went on strike, and we were in flight, and so we had to turn around and go back and land at Athens until the strike was settled.
Now they've shut down everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm at
That's
4
really
meter
funny.
accuracy.
We could send them through northern Cyprus.
Okay. Once again, Dave, when on your project you can do things like
Send
that.
them to Tel Aviv and then have them ferry over.
Right.
I'm sure in a year or two it'll be a really great long story that I talk about at length, but it's a minor bump in the way.
Provided Scott does in fact get here before indefinitely, we'll come out with a transit and we'll start dropping our grids up that way. We'll walk up that way.
For some reason, the counts in those units It's like I figure I'm just burning now. Like, that's just the reality. So what's gonna happen is I'll just go back and then I'll put on my t-shirt, put a lot of goo on it for the next 2 days before I go out again. The burn will start to fade, the one preposterous burn, and then eventually it'll just be tan.
Yep.
South of that thing, we may want to drop another layer of
Units.
units,
just
yeah.
to show that we define the
right, the
order.
limits. Oh, I need water. You just changed t-shirts?
Yeah, to the long shirt, the long sleeves.
Oh, good. Oh.
So you wear the other ones till your arms burn, then you put these on, then pretty soon you'll have a tan.
Oh, good. Here they come, yeah. Larnaka Airport's open. Apparently being closed indefinitely meant until 12:30.
This evening, members of the survey team return to the range. Having solved the glitch, they are able to re-establish their grid and begin producing additional units across the site.
So we're setting up the transit for the first day on a known datum point on our old grid, and then we'll shoot a whole bunch of new grid squares to the east and slightly to the south.
That's looking better.
So they're supposed to go
Me anyway.
opposite directions or the same direction? Our grid is slightly offset from magnetic north. And we originally did it to run parallel to the road. We have a transit that we can set to our grid north, basically.
That is, you can use it to establish a grid relative to itself or relative to a datum.
And so our primary concern is keeping our grid accurate to itself. We basically pick one side of the square as north, and then we do east-west off of it, north-south, east-west off of it, which will allow us to set up then subsequent grid squares. So then all we do is use a laser rangefinder to tick off 40-meter intervals. Scott and Mike are going to bring up our GPS units to fix our entire grid within space.
Now, mine seems to be having a real problem now. I can't find any satellites.
You got a bum steer. You got a lemon, buddy.
We have the... What type of crazy device is this?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know how to use it.
My specific area of expertise, it doesn't really exist. I mean, I do a lot of little things, but my job on the project is mostly technological, is doing data management stuff. And it's not any expertise, it's just that I'm the one who seems to be willing to do it.
I think it's really fun. The more Dave's concentrating, the more you hit this button.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have any expertise. I could be phased out of this project at almost any minute. But
Get to be really mature and make noises.
Back off. We're professionals. All right, Dave.
We've now reestablished grid north, so what we're going to do is to go ahead and lay out some more grid square units. Mr. Caraher is going to take a stack of flags and a laser rangefinder, which shoots a laser and then back and computes distance. And he's going to walk a transect, which is 90 degrees east of magnetic north. He's going to walk directly along that transect, and we're going to put in flags every 40 meters.
More Roman fineware.
Okay, take.
Step back.
And you need to plant the flag.
Flag right between your feet.
Easy. Hey, I found a molded piece of pottery with a little guy.
Great. Can you mark it somehow?
We really were hoping our site was really contained up there, but now we find scatter extends quite a bit in this direction. We'll put in a bunch more grid squares. It'll keep Scott busy.
But if each new grid square contains a high concentration of artifacts, Dr. Scott Moore will not have enough time to analyze them all for the team's anticipated publication.
If we're going to contextualize our site in terms of the Mediterranean, it's crucial that we get some units up in here.
I understand that.
Yeah.
We have one problem and we have one surround system.
I mean, I really think that once you get through, once again, the optimism of the guy who doesn't have to read the pottery. Like, once you get through this insanity, you're just gonna hit a bunch of bags with 3 artifacts, 4 artifacts, and then.
I could go survey all the time at this point. Now that I'm back in the mood, I got my full Special K and my cup of coffee, and so this is gonna start me off right. Oftentimes patch of vegetation will obscure your view. So it's easiest to destroy a bush than to actually move the transit.
You're 6 steps away from me.
Stop.
Hey, take a half step to your right.
Your other right.
There.
There's a pinch handle there.
Right there.
Gun blunt flag.
Yeah, you see that? Precision. We done?
Yeah, come on in. The light's bad. I'm not sure I can get the distance.
Okay, we're done.
Beyond doing standard archaeology, PKAP also has to familiarize 5 undergraduates with their survey method in the city of Larnaka.
The medieval, early modern city is back this way, whereas the ancient city is further to the east, and the modern city sort of stretches between them. So you'll notice when you come down here, suddenly all the roads will go crazy, and it'll be really hard to find your way around, and there'll be a lot of little crazy alleyways. You'll see these military trucks. Mostly those are Greeks.
Hands-on education is an important component of the expedition. This evening, the students are brought to the top of Vigla and given a crash course in field walking.
Hey guys, come down here, please.
To collect artifacts, 4 field walkers, in this case 5, are spaced at 10-meter intervals. Using a collection method called the chronotype system, they gather one example of every kind of artifact seen in their swath, while producing a representative sample of the material present in each grid square.
One of the things this project does is it allows undergraduates the chance to come and work and get some field experience. And I'm intrigued by the educational aspect of that. They end up getting not just hands-on archaeological field work experience, but they also get something that's very experiential. Some of these students are coming from places, from universities, parts of the United States where they haven't had a chance to travel very much, certainly have not traveled internationally, and certainly will not have experienced a culture as different as what they'll find in the Mediterranean.
Later, the seasoned team goes into the field to begin collecting artifacts and expand their grid. Each unit is 40 meters square and assigned a number, which will be affixed to all artifacts collected within its perimeter. In this way, artifacts sent to the museum for analysis can be tracked based on their unit of origin and provide an accurate model of their distribution across the site. This is also helpful if artifacts ever have to be returned to the site.
The downside of doing a regular grid is occasionally you'll get units with really divergent environmental conditions. What we have here is a unit that has 2 different visibilities. The southern part of the unit, unfortunately, is in a deep, relatively recently deeply plowed field where you can see almost everything on the surface. The northern part of the unit, however, is unfortunately cut but not plowed grain stubble, which provides 0 visibility. So Mike will find pottery, and Susie, Greg, and Katie, who worked in the northern part of the unit, will find no pottery because they couldn't see the surface of the ground.
Which way is my line going?
Look back on a line parallel with me, 40 meters. So look at that flag 40 meters over from me.
Dr. Carehair, acting as today's team leader, doesn't just sit and watch the walkers. He's busy completing forms with environmental data. This includes recording the surface visibility, soil type, and location of a walked unit in relation to all known features. And when the walkers have completed counting and collecting artifacts from a unit, the leader records their artifact counts for the purpose of computing density. The team bags and tags all their finds with a label designating the unit number and the date it was recovered. This not only provides an accurate depiction of the site and their finds, but also a record of their collection methodology.
I have this feeling I'm being watched.
Dr. Moore's job of reading the artifacts is a daunting, sometimes tedious task. Each item collected in the field is bagged based on the grid unit where it was discovered. Brought to the Museum of Antiquities, each bag's contents are emptied and thoroughly washed. Throughout this entire process, artifacts collected in one unit must remain separate from another. Artifacts without unit numbers are worthless, and even in the extreme heat, they take upwards of 4 hours to dry. If artifacts are rebagged wet, they run the risk of developing mold while in storage.
The material that we've pulled from the field falls within Scott's range of expertise, and that's just, we haven't found lots of stuff, but Scott doesn't know what it is. So Scott's really fits into the project perfectly. I mean, this is his material, the stuff he knows most.
Well, what I'm doing is taking the pottery that's been pre-sorted for me and trying to subdivide it further based upon certain characteristics, describe them on our forms so they can be entered into the database, weigh them, and then we're going to back them back up separately.
And next year, when we have to do the final cataloging, they'll each be measured, they'll each be, if necessary, drawn. And so Scott is able to tell us when and not only what people were doing, but also sort of roughly when they were doing it. And we're hopefully going to be able to tie this into the material from Maria Hadjikosti's excavations.
What we're doing here is labeling our artifacts with their unique number according to their unit and batch number. We can then relate this number back to our records as Scott has read them and made comments on them. And the process of doing this is to take our diagnostic piece, whether they be a base or a rim or a handle, and to take a clear paraloid and to label our artifact in a discrete place. We write their unique number on there, sealed again with a paraloid, and then they can be catalogued and put away carefully for the future.
This was 150 for a gig.
That's lots of what?
This one is lots.
Really? Because Bill bought me one last year.
Oh, no.
Ah, yeah. Is that a theta or an omicron?
What's a funny looking omicron?
And do you think that's a sigma or a...
I guess that'd be a pi.
Oh, that could be a pi. Yeah, good, because you can see the base coming out here.
One of the things that we're doing this year is trying to catalog and identify wall paintings excavated a number of years ago by Maria Hadjikosti, but we're bringing in another expert on wall painting to try to further identify the finds. So she sent us a catalog so we can pull those artifacts and then start the process of identifying them.
Lipinski is an expert in Roman wall painting in the Eastern Mediterranean and was specially flown to Cyprus to analyze and interpret images found on plaster walls unearthed in a basilica near the survey site.
My name is Sarah Lipinski, and I am here to look at the painted plaster, which came from the excavations by the Department of Antiquity. It looks like this material, slightly different material than the plaster I usually work with, because it's gypsum and it's very, very fine. I trace the surface so that I have everything in its original scale, and then I can use my tracing to make it larger or smaller later on. It also helps me examine the way that the fragment was actually painted by drawing it myself, because you start looking for different types of details as you're doing it yourself.
Analyzing the wall painting is just one of the many ways that PKAP has continued to collaborate with the Department of Antiquities.
Hello. How are you?
We had our lunch.
I'm Sarah. Nice to meet you.
Communicating with the Department of Antiquities and collaborating with Maria Hadjikosti has been on the one hand a real treat, because she's from this area. She's been so generous and helpful, but on the other hand, she is very, very busy. Will we see you again in
July, at the end of July. I think we have an appointment
on Wednesday, next
27th.
week.
And just making sure that we can get her attention and get as much knowledge from her as possible to make our project a success has occasionally been a little bit frustrating.
This is part of the cross, actually. It doesn't matter.
Yes, but there is an inscription like this.
Yeah, we saw that.
I left it back. I took it out and looked at it, and then I put it back.
And I'm sure some of this is frustrating with her too. She's a field archaeologist and she's being asked in her position within the Department of Antiquities to do lots of different things.
We found some bones, and it looks like a bones of a baby, but we are not sure. We have to, somebody specialist has to check it. But it looks like human bones found in this pit, together with strange things.
We're super lucky that our what we want to do with the project and our group have aligned so cleanly. Marinos Avram, who's the director of the museum here, is awesome.
Cataloging
It's
now.
okay, it's okay.
He's been so cooperative. He's provided us with workspace, storage space, Cypriot coffee, everything.
We love our job, and we do what is possible to do.
Filming everything.
After each season, the paperwork begins as discoveries are recorded and finds published.
Archaeology, unfortunately, can be extremely tedious, and that is one of the things that until you do archaeology, unfortunately, you're not really quite aware of. Even though it feels very tedious at times when I make new discoveries, as far as when I'm doing the pottery and looking at the pottery and I find a very interesting piece, it really makes what I've done that day worthwhile, even though I know people watching me who just see me just sitting there hour after hour doing the pottery. It looks very boring, but to me, it's that the adventure and the discovery, sort of unraveling a mystery as I'm going about it, so to speak. And I guess I contribute to that whole romantic ideal that archaeologists have, sort of the Indiana Jones version. But if that gets people interested, I think that might be a good thing.